The chimpanzee is playing a game, moving all the discs to another pillar, arranging them in descending order. Within minutes of exposure, the chimpanzee masters the game effortlessly. The chimpanzee's remarkable intelligence is attributed to the gene medication developed by Will. The medication stimulates autonomous generation of new brain cells and facilitates self-repair. This gene therapy holds immeasurable medical value and potential profits for treating brain disorders. Significant progress has been made in experiments on chimpanzees, pending board approval for human trials. As Will passionately discusses these advancements, the laboratory chimpanzee suddenly goes into a frenzy, attacking two staff members and fleeing. It charges into the conference room. Before Will can react, security guards arrive and fatally shoot the chimpanzee. Faced with this unforeseen situation, the board makes a final decision. They not only terminate the entire research project but also order the disposal of all the chimpanzees. Upon Will's return to the lab, he discovers his colleague Robert cradling a baby chimpanzee. It turns out to be the offspring of the previous chimpanzee. Only then does Will realize that the mother's sudden rampage was driven by instinct to protect a child. Given the company's current attitude, Will decides to bring the chimpanzee home. It can also keep his father company. Will's father suffers from severe dementia, which is why he was eager to conduct human experiments. The old man names the baby chimpanzee Caesar. In the following years, they raise Caesar as their own child. Within a short time, 3 years have passed, and Caesar starts displaying signs of advanced intelligence. At the age of 1, he can use various tools like a human. By 2, he learns different sign languages and vocabulary. Now, at the age of 3, Caesar's cognitive abilities surpass those of human children his age. Through years of observation, Will discovers that Caesar inherited the genetic modifications from his mother. The green irises in his eyes are clinical symptoms of the gene medication. Since Caesar's brain has no cells that require repair, the medication significantly enhances his intelligence. Now, Caesar not only paints and reads books but also excels at chess. His intelligence keeps growing. However, Will's father's dementia worsens over time. After careful consideration, Will takes the risk and injects his father with the gene medication. When Will wakes up the next day, he is astonished to find his father's dementia has improved. His father even plays a long-forgotten piano piece. This exciting development motivates Will further. Now, all he needs to do is record his father's clinical symptoms to understand the effectiveness of the gene medication in humans. Meanwhile, Caesar spots children playing downstairs through the window. Curious, it sneaks into the neighbor's house. However, it is quickly chased out by the neighbor once again, with the man brandishing a baseball bat, ready to teach Caesar a lesson. Fortunately, Will arrives just in time, and Caesar seeks solace in Will's arms. Once they return home, Will discovers that Caesar is injured. He immediately rushes Caesar to the veterinary hospital. As Caroline stitches up his wounds, Will encourages Caesar, promising him a treat once the wounds are closed. Surprisingly, Caesar responds by using sign language. He should take Caroline out for a meal now. With Caesar as their connection, Will and Caroline quickly grow closer and start dating. At this point, Caroline suggests that as Caesar grows older, they should provide it with a true home. Without hesitation, the family sets off. They bring Caesar to a forest park. By this time Will had also untied the rope. Caesar instinctively kneels down on one knee and extends a hand. With Will's permission, Caesar excitedly dashes into the woods. It arrives at a towering tree. Encouraged by Will, Caesar climbs up the tree. Even though it was Caesar's first time climbing a tree, its innate genes told it that it belonged there. It climbs higher and jumps farther. Caesar dashes and leaps between the trees, from dawn to sunset, as the weather changes from rainstorms to scorching sun. 5 years pass swiftly in this manner. Standing atop the tree, Caesar has finally reached adulthood. One day, as Will prepares to take Caesar back home, a wolfhound suddenly charges towards them, barking furiously at Caesar. Unexpectedly, this triggers the wild instincts embedded deep within Caesar. Once they return to the car, Caesar appears gloomy and asks Will if he is just a pet. Will immediately denies this notion, affirming that he has always considered Caesar his child and himself as Caesar's father. Following that, Will takes Caesar to the genetic company, where he reveals Caesar's true lineage. Caesar was very upset to learn the truth, and for the first time, its gaze towards the genetic company is filled with anger. Upon returning home, Caesar loses his appetite. It was during this time that it noticed the re-emergence of dementia in the elderly. Will realizes that it is due to an immune system reaction and rejection of the medication. The treatment is no longer effective, and his father's dementia will worsen. Soon after, his father has an episode and damages the neighbor's car. The neighbor immediately confronts the old man, pulling the old man out of the car, and Caesar quickly becomes aware of the commotion. Witnessing a neighbor physically assaulting elderly man, Caesar was consumed with rage and stormed out. It tackles the neighbor to the ground and unleashes a brutal assault, striking him repeatedly. The neighbor, unable to defend himself, tries to escape, but Caesar refuses to let him go. With a forceful kick, Caesar sends the neighbor over the railing. Caesar jumps onto the neighbor, pinning him down. The neighbor's resistance further provokes Caesar's animal instincts, and it bites off the neighbor's finger. Fortunately, upon hearing his elderly people's call, Caesar ceases the attack. Confused and overwhelmed by his own actions, Caesar seeks refuge in the embrace of the old man. Due to the violent incident, Caesar is forcefully taken to an animal shelter. For the next 3 months, it will spend there. Will was relieved to see that the shelter seemed to be in good condition and left the place. However, right after Will left, the administrator Dodge locked Caesar in an iron cage. It turned out that there were numerous cages in the facility, all filled with primates. Dodge fed Caesar with food that not even pigs would eat. Whenever Caesar misbehaved, Dodge would discipline him with a high-pressure water hose. Caesar could only cower in the iron cage. In that moment, Caesar noticed a stone on the ground. Using it, it drew a sketch of a window on the wall. At that instant, Caesar felt an unprecedented desire to go back home. Soon enough, it was time for the outdoor play session. When Caesar stepped outside, all the other primates instantly ceased their roaring. It was because Caesar's clothing was incompatible with the surroundings. As Caesar's fellow primates approached, it friendly extended his palm. However, a primate did not hesitate to tear off Caesar's clothes. Afterward, the alpha ape, Alpha, once again started provoking Caesar. It directly charged at Caesar and began to brutally attack it. Caesar had never encountered such a situation before, and he could only continuously evade and escape. However, Caesar was quickly beaten down under the tree. Just as Alpha was about to continue his attack, Dodge arrived in time and quickly subdued Alpha with a tranquilizer gun. When Will arrived at the shelter again, he soon discovered the wounds on Caesar's body. Upon seeing the weapons on Dodge, he realized that Caesar had been subjected to abuse in this place. Will immediately confronted Dodge and demanded to take Caesar home. However, at that moment, the dean is also here and informed Will that there was no court order allowing Caesar to leave. Helpless, Will had to bid farewell to Caesar, promising to bring it home as soon as possible. But Caesar couldn't comprehend the situation and angrily wiped away the drawings on the wall. In that moment, Caesar felt an unprecedented sense of despair. Meanwhile, Will's father's treatment had completely failed. In order to save his father, Will confessed everything to his boss. The effectiveness of the genetic drug exceeded expectations. It not only treated brain disorders but also enhanced the intelligence of organisms. The boss recognized the unprecedented opportunity and immediately agreed to allow Will to modify the genetic drug. Shortly after, a chimpanzee named Koba was lying on the operating table. Unexpectedly, during the injection of the drug, Koba began to struggle violently, causing the medication to spill. Even Robert's face mask was knocked off, and he accidentally inhaled the gas form of the drug. However, no one paid much attention to it at the time. When the experiment concluded, the intelligence of the chimpanzees had indeed undergone a significant improvement. Koba quickly learned how to write. Due to the stronger immune system of the primates, Koba did not experience any adverse reactions. However, Robert, who had also inhaled the gas, was now exhibiting symptoms of coughing up blood. At the same time, Caesar made his own decision to escape from the place. During the evening, Dodge and his friends came to drink. Caesar deliberately provoked one of them and managed to steal the person's knife. When the night grew late and quiet, Caesar used the tools it had crafted to open the iron gate. It made his way to the outdoor yard and released the gorilla that had never been outside of a cage before Buck. And so, Caesar successfully recruited one of its subordinates. Then it unleashed the alpha, and before the opponent could react, Caesar sent it flying with a barrel of iron. Alpha, who was getting up to strike back, suddenly saw Buck staring at it. Alpha was not Buck's adversary. It had no choice but to kneel and submit. With Alpha's assistance, Caesar swiftly unified the shelter. On the same night, Will's father refused treatment and chose a peaceful departure. His colleague, Robert, also died at home. The next day, Will arrived at the company and informed his boss that the drug could be harmful to humans. However, the boss had already begun mass production in pursuit of profit. In a fit of anger, Will quit his job. He went to the shelter and bribed the director with money. Just as he was about to take Caesar home, Caesar abruptly closed the iron gate. For the first time, Caesar rejected Will. This ape possessed intelligence on par with humans. Now it was imparting a lesson to its followers. Individual apes were like the wooden stick in its hand, easily broken with a gentle force. Only by uniting together could they become stronger. Although Maurice could understand Caesar's intentions, most of the chimpanzees were still quite naive. Caesar looked at the wooden stick in his hand, and a bold idea appeared in his mind. In the evening, Caesar quietly escaped from the skylight. It knew that there were unused genetic serums in Will's refrigerator at home. When Caesar returned to the shelter, it used a knife to puncture the serums directly. Now, it wanted every chimpanzee to gain intelligence. The next day, Caesar noticed that all the chimpanzees had undergone the same change as it did, their pupils turning into a special shade of green. It seemed that the genetic serums had taken effect. Shortly after, the dean witnessed a bizarre scene, the chimpanzees standing together in an orderly manner, just like humans gathering for a meeting. As the dean prepared to observe more closely, the chimpanzees quickly dispersed, leaving Caesar standing motionless. Dodge, upon seeing this, immediately approached, intending to teach Caesar a lesson. However, Caesar effortlessly evaded the attack. Then, Caesar firmly grasped Dodge's hand and uttered its first words in human language, stunning everyone present. Following that, Caesar delivered a powerful punch, knocking Dodge down. It released all the chimpanzees. At this moment, Dodge picked up his stun gun and was about to strike back, but Caesar immediately used a water gun to knock him down. Later on, all the chimpanzees escaped from the sanctuary. Next, their goal is to cross the city. With a command from Caesar, the chimp army split into two groups and marched into the city. Under Caesar's leadership, one group barged directly into the genetic company. Soon, they stormed into the laboratory. After destroying all the equipment, they released other experimented on chimps. Following that, the chimp army burst out through the broken windows. Meanwhile, another pair of chimps arrived at the zoo. Buck rammed through the fence, and the chimpanzees there joined the army. On the other side, the situation in the shelter has also been discovered by the police. After reviewing the surveillance footage, people finally believed that it was a chimp uprising. Soon after, the police took immediate action. Upon receiving the news, Will drove to the city. By this time, the chimp army had already gathered together. They maneuvered through the streets with acrobatic agility. When a police officer arrived, he quickly captured one chimp with a capture net. As he was about to take the chimp away, Caesar appeared on the rooftop. It hurled a spear that pierced through the police car. In the terrified eyes of the driver, another chimp had already rescued its companion. The police quickly fled the scene upon realizing the situation, just as Caesar was about to continue forward. To its surprise, a large force of police arrived. Maurice swiftly picked up a manhole cover and hurled it directly at a police car. Bach, standing by, was not willing to back down either. With a powerful swing, Buck caused another police car to lose control. Then, Caesar and all its companions gathered together. Next, they only had to cross the bridge in front of them to be completely free from human control. Caesar immediately led the chimp army into a charge. They stormed across the bridge, causing mayhem in their path. However, at that moment, the pursuing police caught up once again. Caesar recognized the danger and quickly ordered all the chimps to halt. Now, mounted police were closing in from behind, and the police had blocked off the bridge ahead. At this point, Caesar waved his hand. Caesar directed one group of chimps to take the upper path on the bridge while another group went below. As the chimps swiftly escaped, the mounted police decisively launched their attack. Caesar witnessed its brethren being mercilessly slaughtered and swiftly led a counterattack. Bach, relying on his own tremendous strength, charged forward and forcefully threw the mounted police officer off their horse. Just as Buck was about to take a life, Caesar intervened and stopped it. Subsequently, the Legion of Apes also arrived at the end of the bridge. Under Caesar's command, all the baby gorillas charged out together. They directly overturned a bus, and then, using the bus as a shield, they accelerated forward. When the police saw their target, only then did they realize that all the bullets had been blocked by the vehicles. At that moment, Caesar had already rushed over. With a loud cry, the apes on the bridge immediately jumped down. While they distracted the enemy, the apes beneath the bridge quickly arrived to provide support. They directly charged to the rear of the police. Under the pincer attack of the Ape Legion, the police quickly fled in disarray. All the apes immediately cheered loudly upon seeing this. At this moment, Will also arrived at the scene. Just as Will called out to Caesar, the genetic company's helicopter arrived here as well. It immediately launched an attack on the apes. The unsuspecting apes suffered heavy casualties in an instant. Caesar quickly took out a chain. Although it successfully flung away 2 individuals, the pilot of the aircraft continued the attack. At this moment, the baby gorilla also rushed over. It first pushed Caesar away, and then, after shielding it from the bullets, the gorilla charged directly into the aircraft. Under the baby gorilla's attack, the plane quickly lost control and crashed in flames. However, the gorilla also lost its life in the process. At that moment, the injured boss desperately sought to save his life. Caesar, lacking mercy this time, directly ordered its subordinates to kick the plane into the sea. Following that, under Caesar's guidance, the apes finally broke free from the city. They arrived in a forest brimming with freedom. Will, who had pursued them, quickly found Caesar. He wanted Caesar to return home with him. However, Caesar did not agree. As it turned and saw the hopeful gaze of a kind, Caesar softly spoke to Will. Amidst his astonishment, Will also understood Caesar's sentiment. He knew that the forest was Caesar's true home. In the next, Caesar would lead the primates to continue their existence amidst the encirclement of humans.